What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 99 Everything with Jonathan. That's me. We have a bit of a different setting today. If you're watching the video version of this, you may also notice that I'm very tanned right now. So the reason for that is because I am actually 2 days out from my second bodybuilding competition as a men's physique competitor. But that is also a big reason why I have my guest here today. We're pretty much in an Airbnb today, and so we're not in Sydney, so we're in Queensland. But also, by the time this is uploaded, I probably would have competed already, so we'll see how we go. But this guy here is my coach. And besides being a coach to myself, he's also coached several other bodybuilding athletes who have placed and won medals in their shows. He's also a very successful online coach, successful IFBB Pro, but he's currently retired, and we'll kind of delve more into that. But without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Paulie.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on, and I'm really happy with how you're looking, and I'm excited to see how you go this weekend.
Yeah, I think I look better too now. Now that I look at that photo that you took with me,
Yeah.
like it seems like I'm a bit more dialed in here.
Yeah, you definitely we pushed it these last couple of weeks, and obviously you've flattened out a bit, so it was hard to see the detail. But now that we've started the carb up process, things are popping out a bit more.
It's crazy how like these changes can happen so quickly.
It can, and sometimes you lose sight of like the process, because at the time when you were really flat and depleted, you can't really see the end result until you just keep pushing through, and then you start that carb up process and it all shines through.
I got to say that's actually that was actually my experience, because at some point I was like, do I even look good anymore? I can't even tell.
Yeah.
But anyways, Paulie, I wanted to start just kind of learning a bit about your upbringing and I guess your journey to where you went to become a IFBB Pro, which is a very prestigious thing. It's very difficult to be an IFBB Pro. And then after that, just kind of delve into how you went from being an IFBB Pro to where you are now.
Yeah, sure, man. My parents are Vietnamese. I've got the typical Vietnamese background story. They escaped war, came over here on a boat. Ended up raising me. I grew up and born and raised in Perth. I guess my upbringing, I was a bit of an outcast, I grew up in a bit of a ghetto suburb of Western Australia. I was one of the few Asian families in the suburb, and I probably got picked on a lot when I was young. Kind of brewed some insecurity within myself. And then I ended up martial arts when I was really young. And if you would have asked me as a teenager where I would end up, I would have told you I'd be a professional fighter. So I did I delved in a few different martial arts, but I mostly did Muay Thai. And then I actually, when I left school, became a PT, or studied Cert 3 and 4 to be a PT through my love of martial arts. And then it wasn't actually until I did my Cert 3 and 4 that I actually started weight training. And then soon after I started weight training, I actually quickly fell in love with weight training. I think it was just I fell in love with the aspect of like having a routine, and it's all about you versus you, it's about beating your personal best. Like from day one of me training, I was logbooking my sessions.
Wow, nice. Yep.
I had a training plan. I was always about, what did I do last week? What do I need to do this week to be better? And I really enjoyed that thoroughly. And I soon actually gave up martial arts and really just delved into weight training. And I responded pretty well to the weight training. I think in the first 2 or 3 years, I put on a good 10 kilos of muscle.
How old were you when you started weight training?
So I was about 19. So I guess for most IFBB pros, it's probably a bit of a late start. So 19 when I started that, and then I had no intention of ever competing. Like that wasn't what I wanted to do. It was more so one, just to build self-esteem, and secondly, just because I really enjoyed it. And then soon after I started working as a personal trainer. I happened to be working at a gym that had quite a few other bodybuilders, and like I said, I responded pretty well to the weight training, and a few of the other trainers used to come up to me and like, oh, you should compete, and I remember like going like, fuck that, I don't want to do that, why would I want to go on stage? And
what was the main reason you didn't want to do it? Did you have to wear a thong?
Partly. I think it's interesting because I've never really asked myself that. But I think probably part of it was just the fact that, I kind of grew up and I was like, didn't have much self-esteem, and I really wasn't good at anything when I was young, I'd be honest. So deep down, I probably subconsciously thought that I just wasn't good enough to do it. And it wasn't until actually one of the guys from my gym, who happened to be the same age as me, he went to go compete. So a group of us from the gym went to go support him, and I'm watching the guys compete. I was watching him compete. He was in the junior bodybuilding, so same age as me. I would have been a junior at that time. And then I was kind of looking at these guys, and then like a few of my boys I was with was kind of looking at what was happening, and like, bro, you look better than these guys, And I was like, in my head, I was like, you know what? I actually kind of do,
Okay, cool.
So I started building some self-belief about myself, and I was like, you know what? Just give it a shot, give it a shot. And I soon after that, I hired a coach, and then I did the next season, and I just really dedicated myself to it. And part of the reason why I wanted to compete was just to win a medal. Like I said, up to that point, I don't think I ever won anything ever before, and then lo and behold, I did my first show. I won my first show, and
so first show you won.
First show I won.
Wow,
yeah.
Awesome.
And not to be cocky or anything, but I won with pretty flying colours.
Yeah, cool.
And I was just hooked after that.
Yeah, mad. So that was what age?
So I was 21 at the time.
21, won your first show.
Yeah.
And was this IFBB?
IFBB, yeah.
Cool. What year was this?
So this would have been 2013.
Okay.
So I was a bodybuilder. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm a Classic Physique Pro, but back then they didn't have Classic Physique.
Yeah.
It was for men's, it was bodybuilding. 2013 was actually the first year men's physique was introduced.
Okay.
So yeah, I was a little bodybuilder in that day,
Yeah, cool. And then what was your journey to becoming a pro?
Again, like I never really like sought out to be a pro, like I did that first show out of a sort of a whim, I guess. Won that, felt really good about it. I did my first, I won my state show, and then I went on to do a national show, and I got third place at the national show. So then
third place at your first national show.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So then after that, it was just like, okay, now I need to win a national show.
Yeah.
Like the thought of turning pro just wasn't in my head. It was just like the next progression. So took me a couple of years to do that. 2015, I came back. I won a national show. That same year, I won an international show. I did Amateur Olympia. Won that as well.
In Europe?
No, they hosted Amateur Olympia here in Australia. It was actually here in Queensland.
Cool.
So I won that, and again, I won pretty clearly as well. Started making a name for myself. And then one thing just led to another. It was just like, okay, I won a national show. Now it's to win an overall national show, which would mean that I win a pro card.
So when was that year?
So that was 2018.
Yeah.
So I did a couple shows in between that, where I fell a little bit short. And then 2018 was actually the first year that the IFBB Pro League introduced Classic Physique. I did that, and then I became the first Australian Classic Physique Pro.
So that's something I actually forgot to mention in the intro. Paul is actually the first Australian Classic Physique Pro. That is like a pretty big accolade. Considering that, I'd say Classic Physique is the most popular division right now.
I can agree.
In Australia.
I can agree.
My show in New South Wales, my division got delayed because there was just so many Classic Physique competitors. So there's a lot of people trying to gun for that pro spot now.
Absolutely.
That pro card.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So you turned pro, and did you do any pro shows?
Yes, I've done 4 pro shows. I actually did my pro debut 6 days after I turned pro.
Wow.
Yeah. My original plan going into that season was to try to win my pro card at the Arnold Classic Australia. If I fell short, I was going to try in New Zealand. It just happened to be that I won at the Arnold Classic Australia, and I was like, you know what, it's a week away, let's just give it a shot anyway. 6 days later, I did my pro debut, and I actually got 5th in my pro debut, which I'm really happy about. And then I did 3 shows in 2019. That wasn't the best prep for me. I ended up getting 2 top 10 placings and then 1 top 5 placing.
What would you attribute to that season not being as good? Because typically what we see is ideally is every season you can get better, right? You try and improve. Why would you say that one was just not as good?
I actually had some health issues. So I was suffering at the time with severe sleep apnea. So I was actually on a surgery wait list for that. It just so happened to be that they contacted me for surgery at 16 weeks out. At 16 weeks out, I consulted with the surgeon. He told me that it would be about a 2-week recovery. So I was like, sweet, let's do it. I'd had the surgery. It was the most painful experience I've had in my life.
So for people who don't know what sleep apnea is, that's when I think the neck muscles are constricting on your...
So basically it's an apnea is pretty much when you stop breathing while you sleep, and that can be a multiple of reasons. It can be from a large throat, so your throat kind of closes up while you sleep. So your quality of sleep is really poor.
Yeah.
So for me, I did a sleep study, and I was having 29 apneas per hour, which meant that I stopped breathing 29 times an hour. So you can imagine, I would have 10 hours sleep and felt like I slept free, you know? My quality of life at the time was extremely poor.
How did you already know about sleep apnea before you had it? How did you, just for other people who might be sleeping 10 hours and also they just feel terrible.
Yeah.
What kind of symptoms did you have?
I was exhausted all the time, you know, and it really annoyed me because I was living such a healthy lifestyle. You know, I was training, I wasn't partying or anything like that. I had a regular sleep cycle. But yeah, like I said, I would sleep 8-9 hours and wake up and feel like dog shit. I knew something was up, you know, and I had other bodybuilders kind of tell me before that that was an issue, but it's usually the super heavyweight bodybuilders that have this issue. Yeah. And you know, I probably got to the heaviest I got to was about 95 kilos, which I guess is actually pretty big for someone who's barely 5'7". It plagued me, and then I ended up getting a sleep study done. I've always known I was a snorer, but kind of growing up, I just thought it was just one of those things. You either snore or you don't snore. It just wasn't I didn't think snoring was a bad thing, you know. But yeah, lo and behold, I did a sleep study and I got diagnosed with severe sleep apnea.
Right, and then so you had the surgery about 16 weeks out. Yeah. It was supposed to be about a 2-week recovery, but what happened?
It ended up taking me probably about 6 weeks to fully recover. So I had the surgery. Like I said, it was the most painful surgery. So sleep apneas can be a wider range of issues, but my issue was I had a enlarged tongue, so they shrunk my tongue. They cut out my epiglottis and my tonsils. So basically, all the insides of my mouth was all stitched up. So I couldn't eat for about 3 weeks. I actually, in 2 weeks of after the surgery, I lost 20 kilos.
And this was from not eating?
From not eating.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 kilos in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So some people will be like, hell yeah, but no, this is not good for bodybuilders. It's
not good for bodybuilding. Yeah. So then, you know, it took me probably 3 to 4 weeks just to start slowly eating soft food. Yeah. And then I actually had to try to regain some of my weight, which is not really what you want to be doing during prep.
Yeah.
You know, so by the time I regained some of my weight, and I probably only regained maybe 8 or 9 kilos, I was about 9 weeks out at the time. In hindsight, I probably should have just not committed to the prep, but actually I'm glad that I did because that ended up being my last season of competing.
Okay, so talking about that, why did that become your last season? And I guess what type of like things were, because obviously that doesn't just happen like that, right?
Yeah.
You're obviously probably thinking about it already.
Yeah.
What came to that decision of deciding to no longer be you're retired IFBB Pro now?
Yeah. Bodybuilding, as you probably know now from your first season competing, it's a very obsessive lifestyle. Like everything needs to be structured, everything needs to be planned throughout your day, all your meals, the amount of sleep you get, all the steps, everything is tracked. You are a robot. You are that you're a science experiment. Every variable needs to be
variable tracking.
Yeah, everything needs to be accounted for. And when I was really passionate about bodybuilding, I loved that. It was great. Unfortunately, when you're doing that, it doesn't really leave too much time for anything else.
Yes.
And I think obsessiveness is required to get great at anything. I'm not downplaying that at all. To really get good at something, you need to be obsessed and you need to sacrifice in order to get there. But from the span of 9 years of me competing,
that's a long time.
It's a long time, and like I said, I started competing when I was 21. Like when most 21-year-olds are out partying and shit like that, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of people haven't even lifted for 9 years.
Yeah.
This is 9 years of competitive lifting.
Yeah, like I said, I did my first international show within like the first year of me competing. Like I was dedicated for 9 years. It wasn't like, I'm not knocking on any competitors, but some people compete, but it's very casual for them. I gave it 100% when I went in,
Yeah.
And I kind of just got to a point where the sacrifices for me felt like sacrifices. And I felt like I was at a point where, because I was so obsessed with bodybuilding, that other areas of my life started to
decline.
And I wasn't happy with, not that my business was bad. Like I have a good business, but I definitely believe that it could have been further along if I paid a bit more attention to it, if I was less focused with bodybuilding. Also, my relationships with my family and my friends suffered, it's really hard to have balance when you're all in something, right?
Yes. So that's really interesting because I'd say, so I've been training for about 8 years. You've been competing for 9 years. One of the biggest reasons I only waited till now to compete was one of the main things that stopped me from competing was I was afraid that I'd get like lost in it.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, like maybe 3-4 years into my lifting like career, I got pretty obsessive with it too. Like I'd like just never go out. I'd shut off like from friends. I'll be like, yeah, I'm so cool in the gym, being alone, eating my chicken breast, bringing my freaking like plastic like Tupperware to karaoke. I actually brought it to karaoke one time.
Yeah, I love it.
And people were like that's so extreme.
Yeah.
And then it was only after like maybe on self-reflection I was like, what am I even doing? Is this even healthy?
Yeah.
So I had to almost like learn to be like less obsessive and be more balanced.
Yeah.
And then when I thought I was like at a place where like I'm like quite emotionally healthy, like I'm not gonna, because I guess maybe at that time too, I was like just trying to get big out of insecurity or like trying to prove a point or something, right?
Yeah.
I had to get to a point where bodybuilding was not a means to an end. It was just something I wanted to do because it was fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's why now I'm okay with being obsessive with it because I know like I can like switch it off.
And like I think that's what, in my opinion, what true balance means. Like I don't believe in balance all the time. I think if you're balanced all the time, you're probably going to get nowhere real quick. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
I think balance, in my opinion, is knowing when to turn the switch up and when to turn the switch down. Like for example, you're prepping right now, so you need to be all in on bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in a couple months' time, where you've kind of reversed out of your dieting and you're a bit of an off season now. Okay, let's turn it down a little bit and let's spend some more time with my family and friends. Let's focus a little bit more on business. Let's spend some more time there.
Yeah.
I think that's what true balance is. And it's funny because I remember being young and you know, reading about, you know, guys like Ronnie Coleman, Kevin Laverne, even Chris Bumstead does this. Like after Olympia, they just take like 3 months off, you know? And at the time I was like, why would you do that? Like you're lazy.
Working out. Yeah,
you're lazy, you're losing gains, you know? Like how are you Mr. Olympia when you, after Olympia, you take like 3 months off? And now I'm on the other side and I completely get it, you know? But it's hard to tell someone that because, you know, when you're in that beast mode mentality,
you're already so obsessive.
You're obsessed. Obsessed is not a healthy behavior, you know? It's funny because I used to, there's a saying that the lazy called the dedicated, no, sorry, I'm butchering this.
The lazy called the dedicated obsessed or something?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
That's it. But like, obsessed is described as obsessed, right? Like it's not like dedicated is when you can focus on something and be fully present in that and get that done and then be able to switch off on it. But the thing is like when you're obsessed with something, you're not able to switch off on something, you know? Like sometimes my clients, like they get to these real lows and they start to lose motivation. I'm like, bro, just take 2 weeks off training. You know, and a lot of people can't do that. They're like, I can't take 2 weeks off training. What are you talking about? You know, I'm like, bro, it's not the end of your life if you take 2 weeks off training. You got to come back stronger for it. You know, you're gonna
Deload, right?
Yeah, you're gonna be mentally fresh. You get the hunger back. You know, but people can't do that. You know,
it's like the flip side of just being lazy and not starting. It's like you have the two different extremes: people who don't exercise at all, and people who can't let go of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I was thinking about that obsessed and dedicated thing recently too.
Yeah.
And I had a little different spin on it. It's kind of not related, but I was thinking like, people will call you obsessive, but they'll call you dedicated when you win. Like when you win, that's when they're like, oh, nah, you weren't being like unbalanced. You did good. But when you don't win, they're like, oh, are you sure this is like
yeah
for you?
I get what you're saying, 100%. Yeah.
It's kind of unrelated.
Yeah.
But okay, so fast track to now. So you're no longer competing, but now you're helping others compete, and I guess you also have some lifestyle clients too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to kind of talk through what that process has been like? Because I follow you on social media. I know you. It definitely seems like there's a lot more balance in your lifestyle now. I know you recently went to Vietnam too, just to like, I guess, visit family and just like connect with your culture. Like, what has been like your, I guess, main focus now that bodybuilding is not your
main priority?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I kind of mentioned before, I think like a couple of areas of my life that really kind of took a down step from me being too into bodybuilding was business a little bit and my relationships with my family and friends. So being definitely more focused on business, which has been great. My client database is the highest it's ever been, and all my clients not that my clients didn't do well in the past. A lot of my clients did do really great in the past, but I'm really able to live through some of my clients at the moment, and they're all looking great, and they're all doing really well. And secondly, just being able to spend more time with my family and friends has been really great for me. I'm big into family, as I'm sure you probably are too. And just being able to, go hang out with my mom and go grab a pizza if you want to, not have to worry about it, like just little things like that is great, And like you said, I just spent 3.5 weeks in Vietnam visiting family, and I just don't worry about it, Like some of those weeks I was probably training once a week, twice a week, and it's just like, in the past, I think I'd probably feel guilty about that, right? Like, I only trained once this week, I beat myself up, and then I'm on holiday thinking about like macros and stuff like that. And now I just don't care. Like now I just like try to get a good amount of protein in and try not to eat like a fat fuck, but still enjoy myself, And it's just great to be able to be present with my family and my friends, right? Like instead of like being with your family and worrying about what you're eating or what time it is so you can go home and get some sleep, and and work as well. Like sometimes I'm having to work a lot, and time goes by, 5-6 hours go by, and I don't eat, and I'm just on a roll. I just want to work, whereas like in the past I'm like, no, I'm going to stop and eat, and things like that.
Yeah, it's not like you've completely stepped away from bodybuilding. You're still able to. You're literally at the national show coming this weekend. You're still participating in it, but not at the extreme level you're like you previously were.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it's funny because, like, common questions I get all the time is, what's your training like at the moment? What's your nutrition like at the moment? Yeah. And, like, when people ask me, like, what's my nutrition like at the moment? Like, my most simple answer is, I eat whatever I want. But when I say that, I think people just automatically assume, like, eating whatever I want is going out and eating freaking cheeseburgers every day.
Yeah.
It's not the case, if I want to, then I can, and I won't give a crap about it. But it's ingrained into me to want to feel good about my body and to fuel my body, So every single day I'm still hitting a good amount of protein. I'm still eating my vegetables. I still follow a diet, so to speak, like I've been doing this for 12 years, like these habits don't die. I'm just not meticulous with it. I'm not tracking everything that goes into my mouth. I'm not having to put pressure to hit certain numbers. It's just like, okay, I eat like 4 meals a day, everything has protein in it, have some vegetables in it. If I want to eat more, I do. If I want to eat less, I eat less. Like, I still live a healthy lifestyle, and like I said, it's kind of gone back to that balance thing. I've just turned bodybuilding down, but bodybuilding will always be in me. Always be in me.
So I actually remember what I was going to say, because that was actually connected to it. So this whole podcast is about 1990 everything, right?
Yeah.
So just maximizing like every facet of our lives. The interesting thing is, if you didn't go so hard out with bodybuilding, you wouldn't be able to have this ability to shift it back. So most, let's say 99% of people, they're just struggling to, like, let's say, hit protein or just stay on a diet.
Yeah.
While for you, it's like, now that you've pushed, you literally, let's say 100, you became a pro.
Yeah.
Now you have the flexibility to kind of shift how, like, let's say you have a photo shoot in 3 months. Okay, in the next 3 months, I can get into shape.
Exactly, 100%.
So it's almost like 99, going to that extreme level and being obsessed. I think it almost seems like it's a good thing, but because now you can learn to, like, dial back when you need to, versus people who've never even touched that.
Exactly.
They just can't choose to get into shape.
And that's why, like, we were talking a little bit about this off camera, but doing a prep, right, where you have to be obsessed with it to do well or look really good anyway. You need to be meticulous. You need to have that self-discipline, and when you're able to bring that and learn those skills from bodybuilding, you can put that in any area of your life, right? Yeah. Any area. And it's not until you actually learn self-discipline, and unfortunately a lot of people don't understand what self-discipline is, Self-discipline is like being able to sacrifice the now for later, thinking about how good it's going to feel later and working your ass off now, right? Everyone just wants to feel good.
They want now.
They want to feel good now.
Yeah.
So learning how to push those limits is really important. I push those limits to bodybuilding, where now I can relax a little bit. And exactly like you said, I know that if I ate 1 to 2 and I needed to, I could flick that switch and get straight back into it.
Yeah, and what's funny is when you say you're relaxed, that's still like most people's like 80.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because, like, at the moment, I cop a little bit of flack because, there's times where I legit train maybe a few times a week, and my nutrition, like I said, it's not meticulous. I still consider myself I eat reasonably well. But then I get, other competitors that kind of look at me and, I'm still in good shape, and like, hey, how do you look like that? While they're going 100. And, like, I think they forget that I've been going 100 for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot easier for me to maintain this because I've put in that work previously, right? And that I'm able to relax. Whereas if you've never done that, like, you've got to push. Like, if you're trying to get something you've never had before, you have to push. You have to be obsessive. You have to go all in. Whereas, like, even though, like, I still look good now, I am nowhere near my prime. Like, I'm actually 15 kilos less than when I retired. So I'm nowhere near my prime, but this, like, the physique I have now is super easy for me to maintain because I have gone the other way. I have
Yeah.
gone, I pushed that far. It's not like I randomly just woke up like this from training like a couple times a week and, sporadically eating healthy,
Yeah.
I had to go obsessed so that I can now relax.
A lot of people don't see that part.
Yeah.
It's so, Alex Hormozi, right?
Yeah.
He actually said the same thing. He was like, it's almost like you built a passive income body. You've stacked it up for so long that now you can chill.
Yeah.
In a way.
I like that. Yeah.
Interesting. That's a pretty I guess extensive look into where you started and I guess where you're at now. So I wanted to actually dive into what is your current fitness routine?
Yeah.
And what do you kind of talked about what you eat already, but because you are an online coach, you are a personal trainer. So for the most part, you still live healthily, but with a bit more, I guess, lax and balance. But generally, how are you training now to maintain the physique you have?
Yeah, so I still have a training program. My training program is 4 weight sessions a week. It's a upper-lower split. So I do upper-lower simply because it allows me to, if I need to miss a training session, then I can, and I've still hit all my body parts. Even I'm still weight training, and part of the goal is still hypertrophy, but a lot of it is a little bit more, dare I say, functional movements. I like to feel more athletic at this point in time. Not only that is, if I'm really on point with my schedule, is I'll generally do 1 or 2 sort of cardio-based workouts as well. Cardiovascular health is really important to me now. It should still be important to you as a competitor as well, but I think people get so obsessed with the weight training that it kind of lacks on the cardio side. So that's really important to me right now to keep that up as well. And generally speaking, that the cardio based sessions, it's not always just traditional formal cardio. I like to do, and you know because you follow me, but I like to just do random fun shit. 1 week I might go do a Muay Thai session, the next week I might do a BJJ session, and 1 week I might go salsa dancing. I just like the novelty of it, and a lot of these things I just mentioned were things I have always had a bit of interest in, but because I was so into bodybuilding, I got no time for that. I can't do a Muay Thai session and then go in and do a hard leg session the next day. You know what I mean? I can't roll around and BJJ and then go do a big chest session the day after.
Yeah, you're too fatigued.
Yeah. Whereas now I'm just really relaxed about it. And, if I go and do a BJJ session and I end up with a bang shoulder the next day, I can have a rest day the next day and not feel bad about it, that's kind of where I am with my training. It's just to make me feel good.
Yeah. So functionality, well-being type of training now.
100%.
Very cool. So something I also, I guess this was not a factor for why I chose you as my coach, but you are, I perceive you as someone who's quite emotionally intelligent, and I've seen you post on your social media about I think through your question and answer stuff, you've done inner work, you obviously know yourself very well, introspection and all that kind of stuff. So do you kind of want to explain to the listeners and the viewers what inner work is and what that's done for you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I guess in relation to me, and I see it a lot in competitors. I think most people that start bodybuilding kind of start from a place of insecurity. Yeah. And unfortunately, with all of us, they start working on their body to try to beat this insecurity, and it helps a little bit, but I don't think it's never really the key solution.
Fill the void.
Yeah. You can get people. I know IFBB pros that are the most insecure people you've ever met. They're crying about how fat they are or how skinny they are. And, dude, you're an IFBB pro. You look better than 99% of the population. It's insane. It blows my mind. But I think it's because these people haven't really done that emotional work. They haven't really looked inside themselves to see areas of their life or their emotion or their mental intelligence to be able to recognize what's going on, right? So I'm a big proponent of meditation. meditation in any kind, you know, just being able to just slow down and be able to reflect on what's going on, and also just to think about nothing as well, you know, because there's so much stimulation that's happening all the time
these days too now,
particularly through social media, right? You know, it's, you open up social media, it's everyone's highlight reel, everyone looks fucking ripped, everyone's rich, everyone's, you know, blah blah blah, and you have this social pressure of wanting to look like that. But yeah, it's not until you kind of like slow down and you just focus on you and realize like what you need to improve on is where you start feeling more happier with yourself instead of comparing to other people, you know?
Yeah, so I think this is something that that a lot of people kind of skip. Like when it comes to like 90-90 everything, like a lot of people think just fitness like and money, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, like like you said before, those are two ways to kind of mask an insecurity.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like if you kind of like focus on the dimension of like inner work, emotional health, and you're actually just content and happy with like let's say that's normal fitness and like normal money, you're almost stacking from a like much more stronger foundation.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think once you do that inner work in a way, like, I don't think you can be a full hippie as well. Like, I don't think that's healthy as well. Like, you know, like some people say, oh, you know, I'm just happy being fat or whatever. Like,
I full full body acceptance.
I call bullshit on that.
Yeah,
you know?
me too.
Like, because if you really loved yourself, I think you would want to take care of your body.
Yeah.
You know, if you really love yourself, you'd want to keep pursuing things that help you grow, right?
I agree.
You know, you wouldn't just be like, oh, I'm happy just making nothing and being fat, you know, like, I think you're lying to yourself. I know that's my opinion. I might get blasted for that, but
I think most people would agree, because if you were to do that for your kid, let's say your kid was fat, to love them is actually to be like, hey, I care for your health and let's do something about it, rather than just let them be fat, right?
Exactly.
So I think discipline is the greatest form of self-love.
100%.
You're just refining yourself to be better.
Yeah.
What's so besides meditation, what's another thing that you've, in terms of like the emotional inner work thing, that you think would be really, really valuable for people to do, just to like, if someone's like feeling like insecure or like there's a void or they're just not that happy, what's another thing you found valuable that helped you?
I think journaling is really important, and I think just spending time on your own, and even man, there's an exercise that I do, and it sounds really funny, and I talk to myself in the mirror. You know, I talk to myself in the mirror, and it can be anything. It can be reflecting on my life, you know, like taking a moment to look back at what I've gone through, you know, like all of us, I guarantee you, have gone through a lot in our lives, you know, and just to spend some time to fucking look at yourself and like, man, I'm a badass, man. I've been through some shit and I'm still here, and I'm still kicking. Like, I think that's a powerful feeling that a lot of people don't do. Like, a lot of people are so fixated on you know, their negative aspects and like what they still need to improve, and you know, the holes, without realizing like they're a good fucking person, you know. I've been through some shit. I'm a strong person, you know. Just being able to recognize and just be grateful for that, grateful for who you are, grateful for the things in your life. I think that can change things completely.
And I think it's like comes back to, if you're super obsessed with that more, I guess, like self-flagellating kind of mentality versus like, I'm doing well and I want to do more. It's like you can have two bodybuilders that like from the outside look the same. One hates his life and one's like, hell yeah.
And I think there's always like kind of a gray area in between, you know. You need that, like, you need that want to be better, but if that's driving you into a poor mentality where like you're never good enough, I think that's a really bad thing for your mental health, right? You're never good enough. Like, it doesn't matter how good you look, you're just never good enough. I think that's horrible as well. But I think it's also, on the flip side, you know, not good to be complacent as well. You know, as corny as it sounds, it's really just about learn to love who you are, but still wanting to
be more.
improve.
Yes,
you know?
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I would subscribe to the same mentality.
Yeah.
Cool, man. What other things do you think have helped your mindset? So you talked about more about the like, I guess like congratulating yourself and all that kind of stuff, but how about like the driven aspect? Like what makes you want to like continue like kill it in like business, like be fit, like try these new like cardio sessions? Like what's that more like bodybuilder obsessive mindset? How do you like keep motivating yourself?
That's a hard one to answer, to be honest. I've always had like a bit of a drive to just always want to be better. And, you know, I think my biggest motivation in my entire life is my mum. You know, like my mum at a younger age than myself escaped the war, hopped on a fucking boat, and like at the risk of, you know, going to prison, getting murdered, getting lost at sea, you know, sailed across fucking the sea, landed in Australia, you know, had to go to immigrant camps to eventually, you know, raise 3 kids in a country where she didn't speak the language, had no qualifications. Like, my mum fucking hustled to raise me, you know. And for me, she was my biggest inspiration, and I was always like grateful for the opportunities that I had, that I never wanted to like throw it away. You know what I mean? You know, and every time, like I recently just came back from Vietnam, every time I go back to Vietnam, I always like imagine what my life would have been like if I grew up there, you know, like we have so much opportunity here in Australia. Like I don't understand why anyone would want to like just not take advantage of it, you know, right? We've got all the opportunity. Like, I'm so grateful that I get to make a good fucking living doing what I love. You know, there's no way in hell I'd be making as much money as I am now as a personal trainer in Vietnam. Like, there's no such thing, right? Yeah, I just, it's a hard one for me to answer, man. But yeah, I just always had a drive to want to make the most of my opportunity here on Earth. And I think that's just like, that's my purpose of life, is just to continually be better in all aspects of life.
Hell yeah,
you know?
hell yeah.
I feel like a failure if I am not progressing in life. And I just don't understand people who, you know, just kind of just floating through life. And, you know, how do you feel fulfilled? You know, like, are you lying to yourself, or, you know, what's going on?
That's a tricky one. Yeah. Because I don't get it too.
Yeah.
It's like, and I think the craziest thing about me going through prep and you guiding me through it is you've kind of pushed the limit on what I thought I could achieve.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a tangent, but not really, because so here's an interesting thing. Maybe those people just need a coach.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I still remember maybe 8 weeks or maybe 7 weeks out from the New South Wales show, I was like, man, I feel pretty lean. And you were like, you can get leaner. And in my head, I was like, what? I can get leaner?
Yeah.
And because up to that point, I had never been, that was the leanest I've been in my entire life. Because I've done a few just cuts.
Yeah.
And then we actually got leaner. And then I think this flip switched in my mind of holy crap, what I thought I couldn't do, there's actually more to be done.
Yeah.
You know, maybe some people are the same. They're just floating through life because they're like, oh, this is the best I can do.
This is all I'm capable of.
Yeah. If they just had someone to guide them to be like, look, you can actually do more if you just do this in a place, or just, I don't know, it was almost like you just nudged me. You just saw the potential that there could be more.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just that.
100%. And I love, I know, I'm not saying everyone should compete, but I think when you do go through that process and you realize what you're capable of, it opens up so much for you, right?
I think everyone should compete. I think it was life-changing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everyone can handle it, but it was it's probably the best thing I've done in my life.
I think, maybe not competing for everybody, but I think doing something that, like you said, kind of pushes you beyond where you think you can achieve, right?
Yeah.
Do something that scares you, man.
Yeah.
Stop being in your comfort zone and just, you know, because once you step outside that comfort zone, it gets bigger, right? It gets bigger, you know. And now, you know, you're in the best shape of your life, but I guarantee you, your next prep, you're gonna want to push it even further.
Yeah.
And you are 100% capable of that, I tell you.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just keep getting better and better, you know.
Everyone needs a coach, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of coaching, so because you're not a professional bodybuilder anymore, and I guess a lot of bodybuilders, that's a source of income. Your primary source of income now is online coaching, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific financial goals right now?
Honestly, like I've got, you know, I do. I've got some numbers, and I don't feel like I need to share numbers or anything like that. Yeah. For me, it's always been about financial freedom. Wealth to me means making enough money to live the lifestyle that you want without having to worry about money.
Yes, 100%.
I have a lot of rich friends. I have a lot of friends that make more money than me, 100%. But then, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to knock them, but I watch how they live, and it's not what I want. You know what I mean? Like, sure, they're making heaps more money than me, but like they're working 70 hours a week, and they're tired all the time. They're neglecting their health,
neglecting family maybe too.
Exactly, you know. Yeah. Whereas online coaching, I love what I do. You know, if money wasn't a thing, I would definitely help people for free. You know, it satisfies me to help people get on stage, you know, realize their potential. Unfortunately, money kind of makes the world go round. But yeah, just to be able to live a lifestyle that I want, and I don't have to worry about money. You know, online coaching is obviously very flexible. I can work anywhere in the world. Time for money, it's great as well. Like, I'm not having to work such long hours. I'm still able to be in control. I'm still able to schedule my day, be able to get my training sessions in. Like I had a job. I started PT when I was actually 19. Just a little bit of a tangent. Started PT when I was 19. First couple of years I made no money. I quit PT. I got a 9-to-5 officer job.
Really?
Yeah, I got a 9-to-5 office job. I was a accounts manager for a company that did office fit out. So I was basically planning offices, and I was selling desk chairs, all this crap.
Interesting.
Obviously not passionate about this job. I think I was on a 75k salary. Sorry.
Yeah.
At 21 years old.
That's not bad at all.
That's pretty good for a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money for a 20-year-old. But at the time, I was still bodybuilding. And it didn't allow me to get my meals in. I had to work overtime a lot, which meant that sessions were missed. And at the time, like I said, I was bodybuilding. That was my key focus. And I gave that up. Probably within 6 months. And then I pursued my fitness, and I've never looked back from there. It was always about, like, money wasn't the key driver. It was just about living a lifestyle that I loved, and making enough money to live the lifestyle that I wanted. So I guess that's my financial goal.
Yeah, financial freedom.
You know,
that's awesome.
And you know, and fortunately and unfortunately, as you get older, the definition of what your financial freedom changes, right? You know, whether when you're single, it's different. You got a family, you got to provide for them. So in a way, it does kind of scale up.
Yeah.
But I would never trade all the money in the world for not having the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah, because like you said, now you have way more time too. So it's not just more money, but it's more time.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of related, but I was curious. Like, did your mum ever want you to have Did your mum ever want you to be a doctor or do finance stuff?
Yeah, she did. Typical Asian mum. But you know, you can't hate Asian mums for being that way. You know, like Asian families for being that way. Like, you know, obviously they came from a third world country, and they come over, and they just think like that's the only way to make money.
They want stability for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my parents, like, when I started PT, they weren't too happy about that. But it wasn't until they actually started seeing that I was doing financially well that they're like, you know what, they're happy for me. You know,
cool.
I bought my first home at 24 years old. I'd put a 100K deposit down on my first home at 24.
That's really impressive.
My parents were like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
How did you do that? You know, I'm like, this is the money I'm making from PT, you know? And yeah, so basically your parents just want the best for you, and they just think that's what's best for you. And you can't hate them for that. You know? And it's not until that you're able to prove that, you know, that's stable and that's you're able to provide doing that, and I think any parents would come around and be happy for you, right?
Yeah. It's like until I think most parents are like that until you kind of like show that it's actually working, then they can kind of let go. I guess at the end of the day, they're just worried parents, right? Yeah,
exactly.
So this is kind of segue into our next question. So we kind of already touched on it, but like, so family is like I guess a big value for you.
Yeah.
And you kind of talked about it. It's also because it's pretty inspirational. Your mum literally fled as a refugee/immigrant.
Yeah.
Started in I'd say Australia was pretty racist back then too.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
100%.
So like she definitely battled a lot of adversity to, I guess, provide for you and like your siblings, right?
Yeah.
So I guess for you now, like, what does family really mean to you, and I guess the relationships you have with your family, like what type of meaning does it have towards you?
Family means everything to me, man. And I come from a broken family now. It's mainly just me, my mum, and my sister left. But you know, they were the people that were there from day one. You know, the people that believed in me when I was nothing. You know, like I said, my mum sacrificed so much. She worked so hard to just put food on the table and help me be where I am. Like, why wouldn't I want to give back to that? You know. And I just, you know, the love I got from my mum, I want to give back and also pass on as well, you know. That's why family is just so important to me.
Do you help your mum financially?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I guess that's another like financial goal, right?
100%.
And I think that's very underrated. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, when I'm balling, I'm going to buy the next like car, but I think just for me personally, that's a goal of mine too. It's like being able to give back to my parents because they've been like, you know, supporting me financially and all that. For me to like give back to them would like it would make me very satisfied, and also like knowing that they don't have to work anymore.
Yeah.
You know, is very satisfying.
Yeah, my mom's retired. I've retired my mom. I paid for it.
That's an awesome goal.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. Is there anything in life you want to do that you haven't done yet, and why?
It actually kind of stems from the last question. First of all, I still just want to continue improving everything I'm doing. Continue to improve my business. I want to help more and more people. Fitness obviously has changed my life, and I really am satisfied with helping sort of the next generation, so to speak. And secondly, I'd love to start my own family one day as well. You know, I feel like it's a waste for me to, you know, put so much effort into myself in wanting to be a better person, to work on myself emotionally and mentally, to not pass that on.
Yeah.
You know,
that's awesome.
To leave the next generation, whether it's just the people who I'm able to influence or my kids to be better people, you know. I think it's a waste for it to all die within myself.
That's really interesting, because I listened to this on a podcast too. They were like, a big reason why you have to be selfish in the beginning is then you can be selfless to like the family and all the people you help around, you know. So that's really cool, man. What's stopping you, I guess, is finding a wife.
Yeah, that equation, 100%. But you know, like, I am very content with who I am, and I'm, you know, still improving as a person, and I'm happy along my journey, man. I'm sure when the time comes, it will happen. It's not something
You're rushing.
Yeah, I'm rushing or stressed about or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know,
cool.
Like, I think when it comes to like finding a partner, it's about being the person that would attract your ideal partner.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, we all want this amazing partner, but are we that person that partner would want?
Yes.
Right? So in that meantime, I'm just continue working on myself, continue being a better person.
And I think that way you will attract that type of person anyway.
Yeah.
Rather than like kind of chase for it. Yeah. Awesome. What are the top 2 habits you believe everyone should apply in order to become more successful in their lives?
It would be self-discipline and self-reflection.
It's really funny because the last guest said like pretty much the same.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. So this is actually a question from one of my friends.
Okay.
Because I asked this on my I asked the IG question thing.
Yeah.
And a few people actually asked questions.
Cool.
Some of them were kind of shit though, so I didn't some of them were like, how can I make the diet easier? And I think your answer would be like, just suck it up, you know.
Okay.
You know. But shout out to Long. His question was, what was the biggest sacrifice you had to make to become an IFBB Pro?
Oof. That's a hard one to answer, man, because I think at the time, you know, I was so passionate and probably I was obsessed with bodybuilding, that none of it kind of felt like a sacrifice. If I had to give you an answer, it would probably be time away from my family. As we mentioned, family is extremely important to me, and I know, not that I wasn't completely absent, but I know I had stepped away from them. But, you know, that's partly the reason why I'm trying to give back so much now, right?
Yeah.
I wish I was able to sort of toggle it better when I was younger, but I can't say that either, because, you know, who knows, I wouldn't be the person I am now if I wasn't, you know, if I didn't push that limit to where I am now. Yeah. It's a hard one. It's definitely a hard one to answer.
Because I think maybe it's in all cultures, but in Asian cultures, eating is like one of the biggest ways to connect with like your family,
100%,
right?
Yeah.
So even like during the last 5 months of like me prepping, I've only the one time I had that diet break, I could eat out on Father's Day.
Yeah.
And then apart from that, we had there was some Chinese, I think autumn festival thing.
Okay.
And then I literally just had my meal prep while they had their food.
Yeah.
So,
Asian mums always like, oh, eat this.
Yeah.
And then my mum, after all the shows I ever did, would never understand. Like, surely you can take one meal. It's not gonna make a difference. And yeah, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, oh, you look so skinny. Eat some food.
Yeah. My mom says that to me all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think because I told my parents the next 5 months I'm just not going to be able to spend as much time with them, and I actually booked we have the Crown casino in Sydney, and there's the buffet called Epicurean.
Cool.
And I've just booked that for post show just to kind of just spend a bit more time with them.
Yeah,
after.
nice.
So because I would say for me personally, time away from my family has been a factor here.
Yeah.
But it's it's what you have to do. Well, it's like any pursuit in life, right? If you're going to go hard, you're going to have to spend less time just hanging out. You know?
But I think that's two things there that you did really great. Was one, you communicated that to them to begin with, and now secondly, you're giving back, right? You're like, you're right, now show's over, now I'm going to spend a bit more time with you and be a bit more relaxed. You know? Whereas some people just aren't able to turn that toggle to switch off from that.
Yeah. Cool. In your experience as a coach, what barrier do you see most clients fail to overcome to reach their goals?
This pretty much falls in line with everything that we've been talking about, and it is, being consistent and having that self-discipline. As much as we've talked a little bit about balance and stuff like that, and I think the concept of balance gets misconstrued. I want to live a balanced lifestyle, but I still want to get six-pack abs and be shredded. No, it doesn't work like that. If you want a body that you've never had before, you're going to have to be willing to push yourself and make sacrifices to get there, maintain that with consistency, and then after that you can pull back and have some balance. But you just can't have that all the time. yeah, I just like, even for Gen Pop clients, you know, like everyone wants to go out and have a few drinks every now and then. And I will never tell a Gen Pop client they can never have a drink. You know, I enjoy a drink every now and then, but it's realizing that, hey, if I want good progress, I'm going to have to be willing to give up sacrifice. I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice and be consistent with it over time. And then once I get there, then I can think about slowly tapering off.
Yeah.
But I think everyone just kind of wants to do
They want it all,
they want
kind
it
of
all.
thing. Yeah. Do you think for your clients, what do they struggle most with? Like the training aspect, the diet aspect, or I would say the social sacrifice is an aspect too, right? What would you say they struggle with the most, or what do you see the most?
Yeah, it definitely would be the nutrition and the social aspect.
Because most people want to train, right?
Yeah, and you hear it all the time. You know, most people, even with nutrition, they'll be able to do it. You know, Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday, and then as soon as the weekend hits, you know, they're with their friends and they just kind of just throw it out to the wind. And
Yeah.
And like a lot of that, just one requires self-discipline, but secondly, it's that communication, being able to like. Ideally, you want to be able to surround yourself with people with a similar mindset, but that's not going to happen all the time. Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to get rid of my friends. they don't go to the gym, you know. But it's about you communicating to them that, hey guys, like exactly what you did. Like my goal right now is to get, you know, diced. You know, it's whatever. I've been holding this 15 kilos for way too long. I'm feeling really unhappy about my body. I've hired this coach, and he's going to help me, you know, get in the best shape of my life. But I need to be dedicated to this process, and I need you guys to at least be understanding, you know. And the thing is, like, that communication goes a long way, because no one's going to know how important your goals are unless you tell them, right? Like, you know, because every person starts a diet, right? And no one really sticks to it. So, you know, if average Joe starts a diet and their friend who likes to get on the beers and eat shit every weekend, like, oh yeah, good luck, man. You'll last like a week, you know? They feed you a pizza and you take the pizza. And
it's just jokes.
Yeah, it's just jokes, right? Whereas you're like, no guys, I'm really serious about this. Like, please support me. And if they don't, then are they really your friend, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think if people just like cut out literally what you just said, the way you just phrased it is like so good. Like hopefully, like, this is important to me. Can you understand that and just support me?
For sure.
Yeah, because I think some friends may just perceive like, oh, he just stopped us and doesn't want to have fun anymore.
Yeah.
But the communication aspect, I think that's an important
It's really important, yeah. Because I think a lot of people just think they're like, oh, they should know this is important to me. Like, how are they going to know if you don't communicate that to them, you know? And then, like, if you just end up dogging them because you like, fuck them, you know, like, they're like, oh, you're a shit friend, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. And then you finish your, you know, your prep or your 16-week diet or whatever, and then you got no friends left, you know, like, have you really won, right? Like, so it goes both ways. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right, so before my final question, if anyone out there is looking for an online coach, or anyone is looking for someone to help them prep for bodybuilding comp, which I highly recommend, and obviously I'm biased, but I think also for, if no one has known about this, I actually had a coach before Paulie, and he was so bad. And interestingly enough, he wasn't bad because he wasn't knowledgeable. He's actually like one of the most knowledgeable people I've like seen on social media, but he was just like not a very nice guy. And I think when you're doing something like a prep, you don't really want to be around like very negative energy. And I think what I liked about Paulie was, I already mentioned this, it was just seemed like you care. Just seemed like you actually want the best for us as human beings, rather than just like smash us and make us look good, so then you can like
100%.
put us on your social.
There's more to coaching than just diet and nutrition.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
If it's just like, here, follow this, it's like, it's my way or the highway, like that's not a coach, in my opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, so if anyone is looking for a coach, where is the best place they could go to find you?
So you can email me. It's Paulie, Paulie_V_fitness at outlook.com. My Instagram is recently hacked. But I am on Instagram. It's at Paulie.V_. You can just hit me up on there and we can have a chat and see if I can help you reach your goals.
You better be quick because Paulie's very popular. So get on it. All right, and our final question.
Yeah.
So why is it important for you to 99 everything? You've touched on this already, but the whole point of this podcast is not just about being good at like one thing. It's like trying to be as holistic as possible, trying to maximize everything, because we've already kind of talked about it, like everything kind of flows into each other. And if one thing's like missing, the other things will almost like overcompensate to try and like fill those things up. But I guess for you personally, why is it important for you to 99 everything?
If I had to put it simply, it would just be happiness, man. Like I can't imagine myself being happy if I was stagnant or really lacking in areas of my life, right? Like, if I was just really good at one thing or really good at nothing, like, how can I be happy with that, you know? So overall, just the pursuit of being better drives purpose, and that purpose helps me be happy.
Wonderfully said. Thank you for your time, Paulie.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And peace out, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode.